Welcome back to Pop and the P&P2a on Reflection. No music, just a few thoughts. And we'll open with a joke. What was the saddest thing about losing Michael Jackson? Never getting to hear his voice break. Now, I think Michael would have appreciated that joke because he was into this never grow up Peter Pan persona thing. And, it's endemic in our society, especially my generation, I think, these last 2-3 generations, who knows, X, Y, and Z or whatever, to be encouraged not to grow up and to abandon reason and follow your heart, follow your heart. Walt Disney, okay, has been encouraging people to not really think things through, but follow your heart. You can't go wrong. And, of course, where Walt leaves off, Hugh Hefner picks up. Playboy and Disney have been feeding into the fantasy lives of the last, 3-4 generations, probably. Now, Michael Jackson, it occurred to me at the time, it came back to me at the time that we lost him, that 20 years earlier, in a place called Sylvan Lake in Alberta, north of Calgary here, we had a sect of Jehovah's Witnesses who were insisting in the media that Michael was the second coming. Okay, now, whatever it is you believe or don't believe, the Bible says that Jesus is going to come back in these end times. To do what? Well, at the time, a video of himself dancing with zombies, develop a prescription drug habit, and get arrested and tried for child molesting? Whether guilty or not, I don't think so. Anyway, the point is made that we'll go to extremes. The more extreme of us will go to extremes to deify and lionize those that we admire for whatever reason, and in his case, his performance ability, and also probably the fact that he and his family were in that church, or I'm sure they would have picked somebody else. But it is essential to our nature, and it's really come home to me since then that it is essential. It's the essence of our nature to admire, appreciate, admire, adore, and worship whatever. It could be sports, it could be your car, it could be your wife, it could be your boss, it could be yourself, it could be your teeth. Narcissism, your appearance. But whatever it is that you admire and adore and worship, that's what it is you become most like. Otherwise, there wouldn't be so many Michael Jackson and Elvis impersonators and tribute bands everywhere. And in the Bible, the Lord warns his people Israel. He says, stop worshiping the creation of your hands and your minds, I suppose. In that case, idols of wood and stone and metal. And the reason being, as he makes it clear, because you will become just like that which it is you are worshiping. Metal, stone, wood, unable to either hear or see or think or walk or talk as a human being is meant to. Interesting. Basic human psychology. Whether you believe in God or not, or the Bible or whatever, you can only have to look around to realize that if these things weren't true, we wouldn't have an entertainment industry. There'd be no need. We would basically be just going through our lives, maybe black and white lives, eating and drinking and doing all the survival things, procreating and working, and that's it. It would be nothing beyond that if we didn't have any capacity for appreciation, admiration, adoration, or worship. of anything. Huh? Okay. So, I personally like to try to live the life of an iconoclast, puncturing as much of the ballyhoo as I can recognize. That's why I'm given to parody. And I'm a huge fan of Weird Al Yankovic. Hi, Al! Love you, man. Because humor is a big part of what I'm talking about. You know, it's the drama masks. Drama, comedy. Gravity and its opposite, comedy. And anyone without a sense of humor, I just feel terribly sorry for. And I think from recent experience and the experience of my life, I think atheists are generally fairly humorless, unless they're mocking the Bible or God or Jesus or believers or whatever. They don't seem to be. They don't seem to have any ability really to laugh at themselves. And the thing is with atheism, and the whole idea that the universe had no conscious, living, infinitely knowledgeable, and perfectly wise source is frankly ludicrous. All the information that the universe can be reduced to in terms of like source code, ones and zeros. Everything in the universe can be expressed as source code. Now that's got to be like, who knows how many quadrillions of trillions of quintillions of bits and bytes of information. Where does that all come from? It's got to come from somewhere. It doesn't just present itself out of absolute nothing and absolute zero. But data is merely data. There has to be programming. Decision making as to what to do with data, information, knowledge. Now it's like, say, think for a moment. There were about 100 elements on the periodic table. There are four forces. There is the weak and strong nuclear force, the force of gravitation, and electromagnetism. That's all there is. That's the coin of existence. One side and the other side. There are two sides of the same coin, and that coin is all that exists. Nothing beyond it. That's the universe without God, without a conscious, living programmer, developer, designer, whatever word you want to use. So think about that. The forces conspire, collaborate, whatever, with the elements and decide what to do with themselves without any real conscious, volitional ability. No, like the difference between a rock and a plant. A plant lives, a rock doesn't. A plant senses, a rock only reacts. Cause and effect. Anyway, I hadn't actually meant to get off on that tangent, but it's germane to what we're talking about. And for those of you who doubt, don't doubt. And the further down that road of no doubt, when it comes to a living creator God, that you go, the clearer it's going to become. Because in the world of sociologically speaking, if God didn't exist, boy, there certainly have been enough people who decided that they are God, and rulers, none the least of which rulers. About 163 BC, a man named Antiochus Epiphanes entered the temple in Jerusalem, having invaded Israel, and sat down on the lid of the Ark of the Covenant and declared that he was God. The same thing's going to happen very soon, maybe 4 years from now. A man is going to do exactly the same thing, a man who will be worshipped as God. He'll declare that he's God, sitting on the lid of the Ark of the Covenant, what's called the mercy seat. It's going to be history repeating itself. It's happened before, it can happen again. And certainly we've seen, false gods and false Christs and people who follow them, whether in politics or just among the rabble. The cults we've seen, self-destructive for the most part. I mean, the People's Temple, the Waco thing, and so forth. So ask yourself, if there's no God, what really makes the least sense to me is the fact that less than 5% of the world believe there is no God and are convinced there is no God. And they regard the other 95% as being tragically deluded. Well, the fact of the matter is that 95% are responsible for an enormous amount of good being done in this world in every field of endeavor you can mention, from medicine to humanitarian activity and science and art. Most of it comes from people who believe in God, who are convinced that there is a creator and that he's conscious and living and makes decisions and has ideas about right and wrong, good ways to go and bad ways to go. So, if we are deluded, those 95% of us, I think it's probably for the better, don't you? Anyway, part 3 of Pop and the Perusio will be it. And I don't know when it's coming, but likely within a few weeks. God bless.